Howdy everyone. So this is the bit where the video starts. Go check out my 21 Pilots video on my main channel linked here for an explanation of what this video is and why it is. But for those of you who don't want to do that because it's too many clicks and you're already here, or if you just came here from that video, I'm going to go through every single 21 Pilots song one by one and quickly make the case for every single one of them as to why none of them are actually bad. This is of course prefaced by the fact that, as I record this, it's the 22nd of February 2021, and if the band releases anything after that point in time, then I'm not an authority on whether it's bad or not. And if it is bad, I will reconsider my official position. As a disclaimer though, I don't think the band can do no wrong, I just think they haven't done wrong yet, at least in the form of a song or otherwise a musical release which they were mainly credited for, while they were formally recognised as 21 Pilots. And to try and separate myself from any claims of bias, I'll provide 2 scores out of 10, one in gold that's the objective song quality, and one in green, which is my own personal score. The first 21 Pilots song I want to cover is not anything from No Fun Intended, since that's not a 21 Pilots official release. It was released by Tyler before the band formed, so it isn't relevant to this conversation. And thank Josh, haha, for that, because A, some of the songs on this album are just being discovered, and some are theorized to not even exist. And B, I'd actually have to defend songs like Where Did We Go, or Save, or Whisper. To be clear, they have their charms and Whisper even makes me cry, but they're not well-made songs that I could make any sort of case for being good. Instead, it's the self-titled album 21 Pilots. I guess I don't need to say the name if I say it's self-titled. Anyway, let's get into it. Actually, I guess I don't need to get into it because I've already given my ratings in the other video, go check that out, but I'll give some brief ratings right now. Ultimately, I give this album a 9 out of 10 personally, and anyone who thinks that any of these songs is bad is kidding themselves. Every single song on this album has purpose, if that's something you care about on your music, which I do, and it's very aesthetically pleasing as an album. After that, we head towards Regional at Best, but before we reach there, we find ourselves with the covers of Jar of Hearts and Time to Say Goodbye. And I won't be judging these on whether they're good songs or not, obviously they're both timeless classics that transcend musical quality, but on how good they are as covers and reimaginings of the songs. Jar of Hearts is given the Trees style reimagining, where the song is sung with exclusively auto-tune vocals, and this is done deliberately, largely to give it an inhuman feeling, and this isn't me defending obvious auto-tune as actually good singing because I'm tone deaf or something. This is a deliberate artistic choice taken by the group, and if you don't like it, then that's perfectly fine and acceptable, but it's purposefully done, and done with a high quality with respects to what they're trying to do with the song, which is to turn it into a house/EDM masterclass while keeping the emotional rollercoaster of the song mostly intact. With all that being said, it doesn't sound as good as the Christina Perri version. It takes until the second chorus to get to the level where I can qualitatively say the music experience is worth the time investment, and for that I have to give it only a 6.5 out of 10 objectively, but I enjoy the song a lot, so I will give it an 8 out of 10 personally. Now let's get to Time to Say Goodbye. They take the song and turn it into a beat they can rap an emotion-filled rap over. This is, in fact, what brought drummer Josh Dun into the band. It's ultimately a rather well-written rap, although the chorus lyrics ultimately have the 2011 edge that leaves it as a zeitgeist of the neo-emo music of the time, so it gets a 7 out of 10 objectively and a 7 out of 10 personally as well. With all that done, let's get on to Regional at Best. There are a couple of songs that feature on Regional that also feature on Vessel, some as upgraded versions, Car Radio, House of Gold, Trees, etc., some as bonus tracks in unchanged versions, Kitchen Sink, Forest, and Glowing Eyes as well. For the first group, I'll talk about them here, then I'll briefly mention them in the Vessel part as well. But for the latter group, I'll only mention them here. So let's get started with Regional. Guns for Hands is a funky beat song that hooks you in, it has emotion, it has cool lyrics, it's one of the songs that's got everything that makes it a good 21 Pilots song. It's raw, it's got great singing about violent tendencies, it's got a neat melody, it's got Tyler rapping, and it's got a spicy beat. Objectively 9.5 out of 10, personally 9.5 out of 10 as well. Holding On To You starts off with the rap, which is a design choice I'm personally not a fan of for this group, but that being said, other than that, it's a pretty good song. The rap is rather good, and I like the song other than the starting with the rap. Ultimately, I give it an objectively 8 out of 10, personal 7 out of 10. Next up is Ode to Sleep. Now, this song slaps. There's a lot of songs that slap on this album. I know I just said I'm not a fan of this band starting with the rap instead of the chorus as a design choice, but this song is the exception to that rule. This song is another one that has a lot of what makes 21 Pilots good. It has a beat that isn't afraid to go hard, it has a great chorus, it has emotion and rawness. Another 9.5 all round. Now we're on to Slowtown, which is the first song that isn't legally publicly available on this list. And thanks to that, the first bit is a tiny bit less comprehensively sound mixed than the rest of their songs. But what it sacrifices there is more than made up by how hard the whole song goes. If there was a high quality remixing of this song, I'd be super happy. The song gets a solid 8 out of 10 objectively and a 10 out of 10 personally. After that, we reach Car Radio. Car Radio is a classic. It's arguably one of the best songs this group has released on both a commercial and a qualitative level as well. The song is very matter of fact with how it compares the thoughts he has when he's alone with the fact that he's got nothing to drown them out anymore. Also, the ending piano bit on this version is pretty neat. Objectively 9.5 out of 10, personally 10 out of 10. Now let's move on to Forest. This is my favourite on this album. The lyrics are good, they're nothing extraordinary, but the chorus is incredible and makes the song just that. Objectively 9.5 out of 10, personally 10 out of 10. Glowing Eyes is a good song as well. I don't know, I just think if you don't like this song, you're wrong. It's not the best song by the group, and I don't think most people would say that it is, myself included, but it forever sits in the spot of the song that barely anybody hates. Objective 9 out of 10, personally 9 out of 10 as well. I said Forest was my favourite song on this album, but I'll be honest, when I said that, I kind of forgot that Kitchen Sink was also on Regional at Best. I just always internalized that song as Vessel, even though it's only a bonus track on that album. This song is also the best song on this album. It's objectively a 10 out of 10, personally 10 out of 10 as well, and I shouldn't have to explain why. This song is the song I would use to characterize the entire band, and it's beautiful. Anathema is a song that's hard to describe. It isn't so much a song that can be judged in quite the same manner as the others. It's not a song that if you asked, hey, what song would you recommend from 21 Pilots, I could answer with honestly. The song has a very specific tone and mood that it sets, and it forces you to be in a very specific mental state in order to appreciate it properly. But once you're there, it's captivating. The first half builds you up into this state of ethereal sadness, and then takes that into something more. I could write an entire 15-minute video about this song on its own, but I'll save you all of that. This song gets a 10 out of 10 all round. The next song, Lovely, isn't quite so intense. This version of the song is alright, but it's not quite at the same level as the rest of the songs on this album. The verses sound okay, but pretty average. The chorus in this version is given the ethereal, inhuman treatment, but it doesn't quite suit it as well as it does the other songs in my opinion. It's got some slight mixing issues that I don't think quite bring this song to the potential it has. The rest of the song, though, brings the song up a bit more. Ultimately, I give the song a 6 out of 10 objectively and 5 out of 10 personally. But Ruby, fortunately, brings a fantastic change of pace. It's written for a young girl with Down syndrome at Tyler's church Sunday school to prove to her that she's a wonderful person and deserving of love as well. And with a song as beautiful as this one, I have nothing to say other than sha-da-dee-da-dum. Objective 9.5 out of 10, personally 10 out of 10. The next song, Trees, doesn't disappoint either. This is another song that got the inhuman treatment that I cannot emphasize enough suits this song in particular to a T. It's written to be about truth as an objective concept transcendent of human beings, although there are other interpretations taken by fans, such as it being an allegory for anxieties. Either way, it's a wonderful song and I rate it a 9 out of 10 all round. The second last song of this album, Be Concerned, is an extremely rare case where a song will have last song of the album energy, while not being the last song on the album. And don't get me wrong, last songs of albums are by far my favourites for this very energy, but it's a very specific energy that has to be harnessed. And this song harnesses it very well indeed. The entire song is just left as fundamentally good. The background music, the rap by both Tyler and Joseph, not just Tyler Joseph, but Tyler Joseph and Joseph, Tyler's college friend. The song is a 7.5 out of 10 objectively and a 9 out of 10 personally, mostly because I have a thing for forced rhyme schemes which are slightly there at the start of the first verse. And finally, Clear. In my opinion, the song is quite good, but not quite as good as a lot of fans like to think it is. I mean, I like it, the lyrics are pretty fine, the melody is also pretty fine. The song has a similar situation though to the Jar of Hearts cover, where it starts off fine, but it takes until about the second chorus for the song to quantifiably feel like I've gotten my time investment's worth of enjoyment from the song. Objectively, I give it a 7 out of 10, although I do enjoy it a little bit, so I'll give it an 8 out of 10 personally. Regional at best as an album, I'll give an 8 out of 10. There are a few amazing songs on this album, Kitchen Sink, Trees, Forest, Anathema, but there are a few songs that are towing the line between good and meh, Lovely and Holding On To You, that bring the album down a bit. Not to say that they're bad or anything, I do think that they have their merits in the realms of subjective taste and personal significance, and I can certainly see arguments for liking all of them, but I don't rate them anywhere near as high as others do clearly. But I can't if I'm to actually be unbiased, you know. Now you might be wondering, why did I not hear you talk about House of Gold but the Regional at Best version? Or you didn't talk about 2 either. But that's because, in the period between Regional and Vessel, those couple of songs were released between them. House of Gold wasn't released on Regional, you don't have to at me about getting it wrong earlier. First, House of Gold is a classic song. In the preview edition, it's beautiful, raw, and emotional. I love it immensely, and the song is written impeccably, and doesn't suffer from any quality dip despite being an early release, and it completely deserved to be brought back in Vessel. 10 out of 10 all round. 2 as well is a great song with a haunting piano background, with sparse, equally haunting lyrics. It has a similar energy to track 7 from No Fun Intended, which has as much replay value as Before You Start Your Day from Self-Titled. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 personally and a 7.5 out of 10 objectively. Another release that needs to be brought up is the cover of I Can't Help Falling in Love With You. 10 out of 10s all round, no clarification will be given, no clarification should be necessary. After 21 Pilots got bought out by Ramen Noodles, they released Vessel, a wonderful and awesome album that blew up a lot more than Self-Titled or Regional, and you'd hope so, they had a label after all. But the fact that this album is so great is largely because they ported the good songs from Regional at Best onto this album, and just quality increased them massively. So let's get into this album. Ode to Sleep is a long one brought back, but it kicks off with cool synth sounds into an even cooler rap. I talked about how I don't like 21 Pilots songs that start on the rap, but there are so many exceptions and they don't end here. And this song just sets the incredible precedent for the album. Solid 9.5 out of 10 all round. Holding On To You comes back in Vessel, and I'm still holding on to my belief that it should start with a chorus or some sort of introduction, but I still like the song fundamentally, and it's increased slightly in quality in this version. 8 out of 10s all round. Migraine is a wonderful introduction. Lyrically, it's not as impressive as a few of the songs. It rhymes island and violence with themselves 2 or 3 times each, for a god's sake. But I think it makes up for that with the rest of the song, and I still do like the song immensely despite that. Song gets an 8 out of 10 objectively, 9 out of 10 personally. Vessel brings House of Gold back, and it cleans up the vocals, but that doesn't make it any better or worse. Song stays as a 10 out of 10 all round. Car Radio is a song, however, that is definitely improved on this album, if only marginally. The vocals sound more scared in a way, whatever word it is that I'm looking for, as opposed to assertive and angry in this situation. A notable improvement. Brings my opinion up slightly from it, up to a 10 out of 10s all round. Semi-Automatic is a decent song. It's definitely a drop in quality from the drastic highs we were on before with Holding On To You into Migraine into House of Gold into Car Radio, but it's still alright. It's a 7 out of 10 objectively, 6 out of 10 personally. Screen is fine. It has a nice intro and verse, but the chorus just doesn't stand up as well, if I'm honest. It doesn't have the same bop energy as other songs they released that makes them replayable. Song still gets an objective 7 out of 10, but I like this one slightly more than Semi, so I'll personally give it a 7 out of 10 as well. The Run and Go suffers from a similar problem to Screen. The song is pretty good on a sound level, 8 out of 10, but it has that slight lack of energy in terms of replayability, which brings it down to an objective 7 out of 10, but it has a personal 7.5 out of 10. Fake You Out is, as you guessed it, a third song that falls into this same category. It's a decent song, but doesn't have that replayability factor. 6.5 out of 10 objectively, 6 out of 10 personally. Finally, we find ourselves out of the awkward rut of alright but not spectacular songs, with another port from Regional in Guns for Hands. Just a brilliant song, has great energy, fixes slight audio mixing weirdness from the original release, brings the song back up to a 10 out of 10 all round. The second last song in the normal release is another port in Trees, but this time it doesn't have the inhuman treatment. And while it takes away from the intended feeling of the song, it doesn't take away from how beautiful it is. I jammed to both 21 Pilots versions. The song gets an easy 9 out of 10 objectively and 10 out of 10 personally from me. Truce is a song that also has last song energy. It's a nice closer to the album, and it's a wonderful soft song to close the album out. Solid 8 out of 10 objectively, 9.5 out of 10 personally. Now, in the bonus edition, there's 4 songs that are ported onto this album. Glowing Eyes, Kitchen Sink, and Forest are all brought in largely unchanged. Please refer to the previous section of the video for my reviews of those songs. But a 4th song is released as well, and that song is Lovely. Lovely was re-recorded, and it sounds palpably so much better. I don't think it's particularly controversial for me to say, I prefer the re-recorded version to the one on regional. The original has a few charms, sure, but there are too many sounds on top of the background music that make it sound worse. The new version is just mixed better in a way that straight up doesn't detract from the original. New version gets an objective 8 out of 10, personal 9.5 out of 10. Ultimately, Vessel gets a 7.5 out of 10 for me. There's a few classics that cannot be overappreciated, but there are a few that bring it down a bit from the same level as regional at best and self-titled. Still a pretty good album though, with plenty of songs I jam to on moderate occasion. Now we move hastily towards Blurryface, and this is where I start to get a little bit spicy. Blurryface was honestly a pretty good 21 Pilots album. Top 3 for sure, I place it above regional on a good songs to total songs ratio, and if that maddens you, you best skip to this timestamp because the rest of the video definitely will. But really, every single song on this album has more replay value than half of regional at best and half of self-titled. Heavy Dirty Soul is high class. I will never turn this song off or skip it for as long as I live. This song is music to my ears. It's not a 10 out of 10 in terms of straight up quality, I can't lie to you all like I lie to myself, but it's definitely among my favourites from this album, 9 out of 10 objectively, 10 out of 10 personally. Stressed Out. This is the money shot of the video. This song is beautiful. I don't want to go too much into why this song is so great, or why this is the song that blew up, because I don't know how to describe it other than the pure immaculate vibes of the song. But it's the most deserving of a 10 out of 10 objectively of every single song on this list. It's also another song that I find really hard to skip, so I give it personally a 10 out of 10 as well. Ride, another wide commercial success, is a wonderful song. The first few songs on this album are definitely home run after home run, and that doesn't stop here. Another 10 out of 10 all round. Fairly Local is a contentious one. A bunch of people didn't like it when it first came out, but I did, and I still do. And any score I put in terms of this song's quality is going to make some people mad, so I'm going to tentatively put it at an 8.5 out of 10 objectively, 9.5 out of 10 personally, and call it a day. Tear in My Heart is the exact opposite. This song is unequivocally a banger, it's firmly a 10 out of 10 all round. I jam to it, as does every single person who hears the song. Next is Lane Boy. This song is pretty good. It's a lot more drum heavy, but I like that as a refreshing change of pace. It's at this point where most of the things I'm saying about the songs are getting a little bit similar, and not, like 10 minutes ago, but this wouldn't be the case if this album wasn't so consistently good, thus far at least. 9 out of 10s all round. We come back to the more folksy section, with The Judge, that heads back into the heavy shit in the second half of the song. It sounds pretty good, and I like it quite a bit, but it falls down into the same traps that Screen and Semi-Automatic fall into, from Vessel. It sounds pretty good, and I jam to it, but it doesn't have quite the replayability factor that makes it so replayable. And to me, I think that comes in for this song because it's nearly 5 minutes long, and the song gets a bit weary with how it changes a bit during the latter half. The quality falls off a bit after the 3-minute 30-second mark or so I have to rate it objectively a 7 out of 10, personally an 8 out of 10. And now we come to the worst song 21 Pilots has released. The closest they've come to disproving my entire statement. Doubt is the most categorically mediocre song by the group I've ever heard, which is disappointing. The song starts out with a funky trap style beat, but then the vocals kick in and they're incredibly bland and boring. They're not bad, don't get me wrong, they make sense artistically, and the song doesn't sound bad either, but it isn't much by way of commendability either. It's the song that, if it came on in a 21 Pilots binge, I'd acknowledge it, but I would never go out of my way to put it on. Categorically, it's the most 5 out of 10 song out there, so I give it 5s all round. Polarize, thankfully, is a refreshing change of pace. It's probably the song from Blurryface I've listened to the most. I enjoy the song quite a bit. It's just a comforting song to listen to. It has the vibes of the song you can nod your head to and jam to any time without being your favorite from the album. Objective 8 out of 10, personal 9 out of 10. It reminds me of Glowing Eyes. We Don't Believe What's on TV is awesome. It has the same energy as Riptide or Lightning Bolt by Jake Bugg, and I'm honestly living for it. I rate it 8 out of 10s all round. It's only not higher because it doesn't quite pop off to the same level as those songs, but even so, it's rather cool to listen to. Message Man is quite possibly the biggest disparity between objective and personal preference in this entire list. I don't think this song is amazing. I think it's fine, but it doesn't have much that appeals to people. But this song has been on repeat for the past 2 or 3 weeks for me since starting this video, purely because when I hear the "please use discretion when you're messing with the message man," my ears just gasm. And as a result, I don't see it leaving my playlists for weeks. To me, this song slaps. Objective 6 out of 10, personal 10 out of 10. Hometown is in a similar position to Message Man. I think the song is alright on a purely quality level, but I just hear the "our hometown's in the dark" part, and I just eargasm aggressively. Objective 7 out of 10, personal 9.5 out of 10. Listening to Not Today. Every time I hear it, it sounds like it's going to disappoint me at every single moment, only to promptly not disappoint me every single time. This song is amazing. It has an entrancing melody and I love hearing it. It's a solid 8 out of 10 all round, and probably the second most unappreciated song on this album, behind Goner. Goner goes back real far. It's an adaptation of the last track on No Fun Intended. It was incredibly haunting back then, and is incredibly haunting now. The song has intense last track energy, as every 21 Pilots last track does, but particularly this track has had since its conception. The only difference this one has is that it knows it, and it's proud of it. It's a solid 9.5 out of 10 objectively, and personally I rate it a 10 out of 10 as well. It's beautiful. Ultimately, I give this album an 8.5 out of 10. It's a good album with a lot of good songs, but with a few that don't quite hit the mark, that bring it down that 0.5 out of 10 from the self-titled level. It's a massive improvement over Vessel, purely on an aesthetic level, but I do think it falls slightly short of self-titled in terms of quality alone. After Blurryface, they release a couple of notable pieces, Heathens and Cancer. And I want to cover both of these as delicately as I can, because a lot of fans of the band do not like these releases. But here's the thing, I do. So let's just jump into it. Now, to preface this, I don't really like Suicide Squad as a movie. It was a weird movie and I can't find myself justifying its existence. That being said, the music for it slapped so hard, and it had no right sounding this good. The gripe a lot of people have, or at least had with it, is that it doesn't sound like 21 Pilots that much. And after hearing Trench, I disagree with that analysis strongly. This song would fit so hard into the Demon narrative, along with the heavy synths of Jumpsuit, and works almost as a precursor to the album. In fact, it's headcanon now that Heathens is a precursor to Trench, and I give it a 9.5 out of 10 objectively, and a 9.5 out of 10 personally all round. Now we're on to the 9/23/16 tribute in the Cancer cover. And this song is specifically what got me into 21 Pilots as a band, so it's impossible for me to talk unbiased about this song. So I'll let someone else do it for me. Personal 10 out of 10, objective 6 out of 10. After this point in time, 21 Pilots went out on a hiatus for a year or so, and then they came back and released Trench. For everyone who's curious, Trench is the best 21 Pilots album to date, better than self-titled, better than regional at best. The album starts off with Jumpsuit, and I could explain why this song is so great, but I'm gonna let this clip of people freaking out at the scream at the end explain it. Yes!
Yes, Josh Dunn! Drum!
Lord, take the wheel. Take the whole vehicle.
Objectively 10 out of 10, personally 10 out of 10. And Jumpsuit flows right into Levitate. Levitate is a nice rap, and it's captivating as all hell. It's a song that almost evades description, but it's just really good. 9 out of 10s all round. Morph is a funky song. and it's the most danceable one on this album, which means it's default good. That said, it's one of the few on the album that has the ability to be easily overplayed. And for me, the song suffers a bit from that currently, but as soon as I don't listen to it for a month, it'll go right back up there, which means I'm only going to give it a personal 7 out of 10, even though it's objectively a 9 out of 10. My Blood is another danceable song on this album. The heavy bass in this album is showing through, and I do think it honestly adds so much to this album, let alone this song. Another thing is the general feel of this album. A lot of the earlier songs are a lot more down, deep, and questioning, which is perfectly fine, but it fits into the zeitgeist of emo music a little bit too cleanly. And it also lines up for an interesting change of pace in Trench, which has more upbeat songs like this one, mostly about kinship and getting down and sorting your life out. Song is a solid 9 out of 10 all around. Chlorine is the leader of this album. The song that did the best commercially, it's the one that everyone who listens to it can just bop to. It slaps, it fucks, it's an anthem. It feels more like this song could have just been switched to Heathens though, and the album would be slightly more cohesive, but I'm not really one to judge. It also has the replayable factor, and it's also almost impossible to hate, for anyone but the most dedicated of hate fans. Either way, song gets a 10 out of 10 all around from me. You know I've always been collected, calm and chill, and do you know I'd never look for conflict for the thrill. But if anyone doesn't like the song Smithereens, I'll defend it to the death. This is the cutest love song 21 Pilots has released. Better than Tearing My Heart, better than Jar of Hearts, better than Lovely, better than all of them. Objective 9 out of 10, personal 10 out of 10. I will not be taking questions. Neon Gravestones is the most somber song on Trench, but it does a pretty good job of expressing the topics it wants to discuss. I just love the name of the song as well, Neon Gravestones, like the appeal of death to people who are looking for the limelight. It's good at portraying the message it wants to say, and the song is great as well. I'm also just a sucker for the last verse, the rhyming "the rise in awareness" with "in spirit of fairness." It's so good. Objectively 9 out of 10, personally 10 out of 10. Now we come to The Hype. It's a song that isn't as daring as others in Trench, but that isn't a bad thing necessarily. It feels safe. It's got a soft, caring vibe where it can almost protect you from anything outside. It's a song that I like to listen to on repeat, and it's a song you can listen to on repeat. I mean, it serves a slightly different purpose to other songs, and if that doesn't fit the objective scale as highly, then sure, it's only an 8 out of 10 objectively, but I have to personally give it a 10 out of 10. Taking a break from the depression dip, we reach Nico and the Niners, and this song, like most songs on this album, is delightful. It has the heavy and strong bass presence that befits the whole album, while also bopping and being beautiful as well. That being said, it isn't a perfect song and doesn't quite have as much there as others on the album, so it also only gets an 8 out of 10 objectively, but a 9 out of 10 personally for me. Cut My Lip is the exact counter to Nico and the Niners. It's got everything that Nico lacks, while missing a few things that it has. It's a slower song, which isn't a bad thing, it's just a refreshing change. But it also has a slightly fuller sound than Nico does, which is awesome and makes this song arguably better. Objectively 9 out of 10, personally 9 out of 10. After that, we come to the most contentious song in this album, Bandito. In my opinion, it's a soft and cute song. I like it quite a lot. The band even named their tour the Bandito Tour, a wonderful choice in my opinion. But for the sake of discussion and in spirit of fairness, I will accept that my opinion isn't everything. It's not for everybody, and it is quite a long song. But that being said, its sound is pretty good on an objective level. Objectively 8 out of 10, personally 10 out of 10. Pet Cheetah is a weird one. I've gone back and forth on whether I like it or not. I've thought it meh, then found it to be quite charming, then gone back to feeling meh about it, and now I quite like it again. It sounds less like a 21 Pilots song than most of the album does, but it still sounds alright. I give it a 7 out of 10 objectively, 8 out of 10 personally, just to be safe. And now we come to the coolest song on the album. Legend is about Tyler's grandpa who suffered from dementia before passing away recently. It's cute and it's sad and it's adorable. I don't know, I'm always super vulnerable to songs about people who have died, but it's a good thing that this song sounds great as well. 10 out of 10s all round. For my opinions on Leave the City, you're going to have to head to my main channel. It's absolutely a 10 out of 10 all round though. Go check out my video on the main channel again, although if you've just come from there you can keep watching. All good? Good. Anyway, I rate this entire album a 9.5 out of 10. It's the best release so far by 21 Pilots, and I rarely listen to whole albums anymore, but this is one of the few exceptions I have to that, along with these. Since then, they've released two main songs, Level of Concern and Christmas Saves the Year. Now, Level of Concern is pretty neat, it has a cool sound, and it makes me happy. It's a cute testament to how friendship through these dark times we're currently going through is pretty crucial, someone that can help you get through these times, which are tough for many different reasons for many different people. And it's a neat song that also sounds pretty great. I rate it 8.5 out of 10s all around. And this is about the time where 21 Pilots did a weird publicity thing, where they made a tone-deaf joke at the time of the BLM protests about using their platform. Their apology is a bit meh, and I'm not going to defend their lack of self-awareness. Because if I'm honest, it was quite annoying to see their response to, your platform has relevant social pulling power, be responsible with that, being, I'm sorry if this offended anyone. But I'm not in the business of A, cancelling celebrities whose public messages are weird or just don't read the room, when there's celebrities pushing literal QAnon bullshit in the Senate, and B, obsessing over and celebrating what two random-ass dweebs from Ohio do in their spare time because of their quote celebrity status. I just listen to and enjoy the music they put out. Anyway, the group releases Christmas Saves the Year in December 2020. It's a cool Christmas song. It's nothing special, but it's a song I can jam to. 6 out of 10s all round. And as at today's date, that's as far as the story goes. There are a few meh songs from the band, but none that are outright bad, yet. I need to make that clear. I don't idolize them because they can do no wrong, I just like their music because I think it's good. But their songs that are good are real good, and even a few of the mediocre ones have their charms. As a result, I give the band an 8 out of 10 so far, and I look forward to their next release with cautious optimism. That being said, I'll probably keep the 21 Pilots content to this channel exclusively, if at all. Anyway, in case you forgot, you're actually on my second channel, where I upload either shitposts or other weird non-main channel content like this. So if you're not subscribed and want to keep updated, please do check to make sure that you are, as well as making sure that you're subscribed to my main channel as well. Helps the channel out a lot. Feel free to comment below what your favourite 21 Pilots song is, as well as tell me about why I'm actually wrong. But even if you don't have anything to say, just liking and commenting to tell me you like the video helps out a lot, mostly because it boosts my ego, which helps me feel so much better about the effort I put into long ass videos like this one. Either way, I hope you liked the video, and as always, have a good